I'm Jessica and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. If you haven't checked out my last video where I do a book unhaul, make sure you go ahead and check that out. I had a ton of fun filming it. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on any new video that I post. So today I'm going to be doing a mini book review on the graphic novel Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. So it's going to be kind of like a final thoughts, sort of general review of this graphic novel that I read. It's a super popular one, came very highly recommended, and I'm very happy that I decided to read it. So if you want to see my final thoughts and a general overview on this graphic novel, keep on watching. Before we continue, I do want to say that this review may contain some spoilers, so if you haven't read the graphic novel yet, or you really just don't like spoilers, perhaps don't watch this. But without further ado, let's get into it. So this graphic novel is actually a graphic memoir, which I was super intrigued by when I first heard about it because I don't know, I've never read a graphic memoir before. I've read graphic novels before, but this would be definitely my first graphic memoir, so I was super excited to dive into it. So this graphic novel, I believe, is broken up into 3 or 4 parts. I actually have the full collection. This is the full collection or the complete series, but I know that you can buy like the individual parts of this graphic novel. This is also a translated work. This was originally in French, but it is translated in English. This graphic novel focuses on Marjane's life living in Iran as she experiences the Islamic Revolution. It traces events from her childhood all the way up to her adulthood. Just pretty much everything that has occurred in her life with the Islamic Revolution, her growing up in it, her leaving the country and then coming back, and how that has influenced her and her family. The graphic novel? This graphic novel starts off with her being a young girl. This is right before the Islamic Revolution. It starts off with the women having to wear the head coverings or this veil over their head. It then progresses on to a little bit more of a stricter regime with the government really mandating the things that they can do, the things that they can eat, even like entertainment in their homes. They can't have like certain music playing or play any games. It's a very different way of life that she has to experience. As the story progresses, it gets even more stricter and very political. As you may or may not know, war breaks out. There's a lot of violence that is occurring in Iran, and it has very devastating effects on everyone in the country. What I really like about it is that Marjane's family is very open-minded, is very progressive, and speaks to her very much like an adult. So they will talk about what's going on and the bombings and the war and just sort of general events that are happening in the country to Marjane. Even when she is a little girl, they'll put it to her very practically in a way that she can easily understand. Another element is they are constantly reinforcing Marjane to be herself and to think freely, which you heavily see in this graphic novel. Marjane is one that is certainly very curious about the Islamic Revolution, what's happening in her country and what's going on with her family. She has a lot of death that occurs within her family and with her friends and like her parents' friends. So she becomes very curious just about religion, and I think at one point she even wants to be like a prophet. So it's very interesting to see sort of her idealism with everything going on. As the story progresses, her family actually sends her away to Vienna, I think it's Vienna, to receive education, to continue her schooling there, just to sort of get her out of the country because the violence keeps building up and it just becomes really unsafe to live in Iran. So they send her away to finish school there. Marjane really struggles with coming to terms of what's going on in her country and also just being a woman herself. I think in the book she describes her experience as being considered Iranian in Europe, and then when she goes back home to Iran, she's considered very European based on sort of her experience, because a lot of her friends and family were not able to sort of escape the country like she did. So this book focuses really heavily on identity. It focuses a lot, obviously, of the Islamic Revolution. It focuses on being true to yourself. It focuses on family. It focuses on the violence. It focuses on a lot of feminist ideals and thoughts. Overall, this graphic novel is really packed full of information and history and just vital facts that I feel like we don't get every day in school. And that just makes me really angry because there's so much to this graphic novel and just the history behind the Islamic Revolution that I myself want to now educate myself more on, especially since, you know, it was such a big thing in history, and I feel like we only get, at least in my schooling, we only got a very short snippet of it. So this made me actually very curious of what went on during that time. One of the things that I love about this graphic novel is that Marjane really makes this information very easy and accessible. This graphic novel does have lots of violence in it and very heavy topics. Lots of death. It's very, very political, but I feel like since this is a memoir, it's just so poignant, and I just think it's extremely gripping and very educational to me, and I'm sure to anyone that reads it that may not know a lot about the Islamic Revolution. I also really love Marjane's just retelling of history with this graphic novel. I'm gonna read a little excerpt of what she put in the sort of like foreword that she wrote in the beginning, part of the introduction. She said, "Since then, this old and great civilization has been discussed mostly in connection with fundamentalism, fanaticism, and terrorism. As an Iranian who has lived more than half my life in Iran, I know that this image is far from the truth. That is why writing Persepolis was so important to me. I believe that an entire nation should not be judged by the wrongdoings of a few extremists. I don't want those Iranians who lost their lives in prison defending freedom, who died in the war against Iraq, who suffered under various repressive regimes, or who were forced to leave their families and flee their homeland to be forgotten. One can forgive, but one should never forget." So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought that it was extremely educational, very poignant, very gripping, and just, wow. I mean, I was just left speechless after it because it was so good. I will say that it is very, very heavy. So I am trying to read something a little bit more on the lighter end. Even though I do like dark, I do like a lot of dark things and very heavy topics. I don't know, but because this was like actual truth that she was talking about, it did strike me in a different sort of way than a fictitious story. So overall, fantastic graphic novel. Highly recommend if you are looking for something that is good, that's an easy and quick read. Honestly, again, you could probably read this in like a day or two. I know I did. Let me know if you have read this amazing graphic novel. What were your thoughts? I know there is a film adaptation to this. I have not seen it, but I am curious to see like how it is on a screen. So I may watch that at some point in time, probably not anytime soon, because like it is a very heavy graphic novel. But let me know if you guys have read this, you know, what were your thoughts on Persepolis. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy that it was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Let me know any other books that you are dying for me to read and review. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe while you're at it. You can also follow me on Instagram so you never miss anything that I post. I hope to see you guys on the next video.